Hello, this is really rather frightening. Actually, I'd say it's utterly terrifying. It says here, householders who racially abuse police at home to face prosecution. And it's not only householders, it's care workers as well. The thing is that if somebody racially abused the police out in public, then they were liable to be prosecuted, but not if the police were in that person's home. For the purpose of just convenience, I'm going to refer to the people who call the police or who are being dealt with in some way by the police as the receivers, and the police and the health workers as the givers. I suppose there's a technical name, but I don't know it. So it's the police and the health workers are now being told that if they are racially abused, or indeed abused generally, by their receivers, then they are protected by the law. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable enough. Unfortunately, it isn't. And that's because actually we're looking at the setup the wrong way. What's happening is that the givers are being given priority over the receivers, and it's the receivers who are paying their wages. But it's not only just that the receivers are paying their wages, it's people in trouble are being deprioritised in favour of the people who are intended to serve them. I'm Granniopteryx. Please click the like icon on this video. You can share the video as well if you feel it's worth it. And of course, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to help me financially, then there are links in the description to the various methods you could use, as well as YouTube super thanks. As I've said before, you can be sure I'm going to fritter away any funds you send me in horseshoes, vet's bills and treats. OK, let's get back to the news. People who racially abuse police making house calls will be prosecuted under plans to close a legal loophole. The Public Order Act of 1986 made it illegal to racially or religiously abuse anyone in public, but did not cover behaviour within a private home. The legislation was designed to let police keep public spaces free from abuse, but not overstep into conversations held in private. So it's not good to abuse others, but especially those who are there to help in some way. But public servants, such as police and nurses, are usually dealing with people, especially when they're in their homes, who are in some sort of situation of extreme stress. Sometimes such people aren't in possession of their right minds. They might be elderly, senile, perhaps on medication that's messing with their brains in some way. They might be on drugs or in a state of semi-consciousness, perhaps from an injury. If somebody, for instance, has a fall, bangs their head, rings the police, and the police come round and they've got a bleed on the brain or something like that. They might be saying all sorts of nonsense. And it's quite possible that they might be saying something nasty, something that they actually mean, that they really want to be abusive, or possibly something that just came out wrong, or simply subject to misinterpretation. And that last bit is the most important, because the definition of abuse is ever widening. For instance, a teenage girl who was, I think she was supposed to be intoxicated, was taken by police back to her home, and she remarked that one of the police officers looked like her lesbian grandmother. The police officer in question took offence at that, called it a homophobic slur, and then this happened.
She's made a comment in her own house. You've got her on camera. She hasn't said anything to you.
Where'd it go? Where's this? Does it go to right under there?
She's autistic. She don't like people touching her. She will have a meltdown. She won't come out. She's got autism. I'm Lisa. She's on and she has.
She's now under arrest.
She was full of rage and she ran in the house and she barged me into this corner.
It looked like quite a violent incident, and 6 or 7 policemen, as well as the lesbian grandmother look-alike. In other words, things we say just casually are becoming tools the police or medical workers can use to beat us with. And of course, this is putting too much power into their hands. They already do have a lot of power. Nurses can mistreat patients who are not in a position to fight back. That's well known. And last year, Wes Streeting made this splash. Nurses can refuse to treat racist patients. And that in itself just shows the sort of attitude. He's, racist. That's the label. Because they made a comment. So what's going to happen? Let's say you've got an elderly patient who's been abused by a black care worker in a nursing home, then ends up in hospital and acts badly when a perfectly nice black nurse approaches that patient. What happens then? Here, let's have a look at the...
Stop it!
Very bad places. But this one is one of the worst ones.
Now, let's just assume that woman was taken to a hospital because she had bruises, and what would a nurse know of what had gone on before? Nothing. But if that woman had made some comment about the nurse coming to her being black, and she didn't want a black nurse there because she'd had this experience before, then what Wes Streeting is saying is that that nurse can refuse to treat the patient. You see the little problem here. And he said that, obviously, because he was showing his support for the nurses' unions, because that's what the Labour Party's all about, isn't it? But it isn't the nurses' unions, it's the patients. That's what it's supposed to be about. But not to a politician, of course. And, of course, police have been shown to overuse their powers, haven't they? They already have, and they're being given more powers. And the problem is that they're being given more power in areas open to interpretation. This just popped up on my Twitter feed here.
This man has just said that Jews kill children. That is a racially aggravated harm intended to incite hatred. Because I'm alarmed and distressed by that he intends harm to me and other Jews.
Okay, but we're in a public forum where people can express views. Okay, I disagree that it's a racially aggravated remark. Okay, and at the same time, there was a sign up there not too long ago saying something along the lines of Hamas are rapists, which I would suggest is in the same vein as the remark.
Can I explain? Can I explain?
Jews.
are baby killers is in the same vein as Hamas are rapists. Think about that.
I'm not going to get into that
One
argument
is
with
a
you on the
prescribed
street.
terrorist
What I'm
organisation.
saying is,
One
I'm
are an
wanting
ethnic
people on this
identity.
street just to simply express their views,
Come on.
That's not
okay,
expressing a view.
in
That is a racially
relative
aggravated remark.
calmness.
Said black people are baby killers. Would you be having words?
We'll agree to disagree in that aspect.
Come on,
Okay?
well, you need to think about this
Can
clearly.
I ask you to head back to the group, okay, to prevent an unnecessary escalation
We will head
between
back, but
these people
if they
saying
come and heckle us,
and
we have a right to respond.
Now, that policeman was irredeemably stupid. But if any of those people who were complaining to that policeman about the behaviour of those children, then and said he was being stupid, they would probably have ended up arresting the people who were complaining. There was a group of kids taunting the Jewish participants in a rally in support of Israel. They were shouting, "Jews are child killers." And when one of the participants complains this is a racial slur, the policeman says, according to his interpretation, that's no different from saying Hamas are rapists. At which the man responds, but they are. You see, it's all a matter of how the police interpret things. And unfortunately, this particular police officer isn't exactly the brightest bulb in the box. Listen, in many cases, a Bobby on the beat doesn't need to be an intellectual giant, so long as the job he's given doesn't require complicated or abstract thought, something that policeman is obviously incapable of. For such a simple soul as he, the question he should be dealing with should be, are those kids harassing that man? Yes or no? If yes, haul them away. If no, then tell the man to calm down. In this case, the policeman, because he had a lot of politically correct nonsense stuffed into the limited capacity of his cranium, he's completely unable to deal with the situation. And that's the problem. Police should not have to tolerate abuse. Yes, they should. That's their job. And here we've got this, there's a nursing trust leader, and the emphasis, tackling racism is the priority. No, it isn't. Looking after patients is the priority. And sometimes you're going to get some very, very unpleasant people. But that's the job. Oh, well, yep, okay, well, that's it. I've got to go and answer the door. So, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.